My dear buddies, it's about 1:30 a.m. in the night or in the morning, whatever you call it, and here am I making a video for you all. And this time it's going to be a very important topic, that is how to get maximum fuel efficiency out of every single drop of petrol. And this video is applicable both to your cars and your motorcycles. I have written down a few points, so let us quickly start without wasting any time. So point number one, that is generally when we get our motorcycles or cars serviced, there is a service interval gap, correct? It is usually these days about 7,000 kilometers or 10,000 kilometers or 15,000 kilometers. So once we get our machine serviced, we generally don't care about checking anything till the next service interval, correct? But no, we should not be doing that. What we should be checking is the air filter, because in our conditions, in our Indian conditions, unfortunately our streets are very dusty, so the air filter will get clogged much before your service interval arrives. Because in very dusty conditions, depending on the town or the city that you're driving or riding in, the air filter can accumulate a lot of dust even in just about 2000 kilometers. So it's very simple. All that you have to do is just take out your air filter. It is very simple to take out your air filter. Check it every couple of thousand kilometers and just dust it. Yes, dust it. Take a vacuum cleaner, clean it up and put it back in. And some air filters can also be cleaned with petrol, and some K&N aftermarket air filters can also be washed. But most of the time we have stock air filters, so just dust them, vacuum them and put them back or into your motorcycles or your cars. And what is the reason behind we getting lesser fuel efficiency when our air filters are clogged? Because when our air filters are clogged, our engine, the combustion chamber, is not getting enough oxygen. When it's not getting enough oxygen, the fuel that goes inside doesn't fully burn. When it doesn't fully burn, it doesn't produce enough torque. When it doesn't produce enough torque, our car or our motorcycle doesn't move ahead effortlessly. So that is the reason behind it. So point number two is that checking your air pressure on your tires, it is extremely critical. I have seen so many people riding and driving with underinflated tires. So for an example, if you're riding a KTM Duke 390, the rear tire air pressure, the maximum you can go up to is about 32 and the minimum should be about 28, and the front is about 25 psi. So what you can do is, of course, the best way to do it is have the air pressure be maintained optimally, but there is a trick, there's a hack, that is we can go above by 2 psi. That is the rear tire, we can top it up to about 34, and the front air pressure we can top it up to about 27 or 28 psi. So what happens is that our rolling friction gets reduced when we have our tires well inflated, and when the rolling friction reduces, we get better fuel efficiency. And now let us understand what is a torque band. Now we all read the technical specifications of our motorcycles and cars, correct? There is horsepower and there is torque. Horsepower is generally generated at the peak of the RPM, but torque is what actually drives your motorcycle or your car, and torque is generated somewhere in the mid of the RPM range. So read your technical specifications. So for example, if your motorcycle has the RPM as 10,000 RPM, most of the time the torque would be generated at about 6,000 RPM, the maximum amount of torque. And ride at that RPM or drive at that RPM. Most of the time there's a misconception, that is if we ride or drive in high gears at low RPM, we get better fuel efficiency. No, we don't. We would actually be loading the engine, and that is bad for your machine. And the same way, riding or driving at high RPMs in low gears is also not good for your motorcycle or your car. So drive or ride at the optimum torque band, because when you are at the optimum torque band, your motorcycle or your car moves ahead effortlessly. And when it's moving ahead effortlessly by torque, because torque is a pushing force, it's a twisting force, so we get really good fuel efficiency. I mean, the maximum fuel efficiency possible. And this point, I'm not so happy mentioning it because I love it. That is, I love aftermarket exhausts, but unfortunately, even if you just replace the muffler and don't even think about a full system exhaust, but even if you just replace the muffler, you are making the air fuel mixture lean. And when we make the air fuel mixture lean, the fuel efficiency does get affected. So putting on an aftermarket exhaust does affect your fuel efficiency. So if you want really good fuel efficiency, stick on to stock exhaust and stock air filter. And this is something which I always do. That is, our roads these days are clogged with traffic. I mean, so much of traffic almost all the time. And when we are at a traffic signal, at a traffic light, these days we have to wait for about 2 minutes or sometimes 3 minutes or even longer. And if you are running your motorcycle or your car engine at a traffic light for 2 or 3 minutes at idle, you are burning a lot of fuel. But you would say that, because if we cut off the engine at every traffic light, our battery would go down. Yes, I understand that is something which we have to keep it on our mind. But using a high capacity battery, using a battery with high ampere hours, and also having a healthy battery will benefit you here. And so that way, what you can do is you can cut off the engine at traffic signals, and then again, most of traffic signals have the numbers, the timers running countdown, and just before it reaches about 10 seconds, crank your motorcycle or your car and start driving. But the key to doing this is having a battery with high ampere hour. Now, how do you check it? Most of the batteries are about 9 ampere hour on motorcycle, or 12 ampere hour, or 14 ampere hour. Now, if your motorcycle manual says that recommended motorcycle battery is 12 volts and 9 ampere hour, what you can do is you can buy a battery which is 12 volt but 14 ampere hour. Ampere hour is like the storage. It understand this. Voltage is something which you cannot buy a 6 volt, or you cannot buy a 24 volt, but you have to buy a 12 volt. That you cannot manipulate with, that you cannot change. But when you buy a higher ampere hour battery, it lasts longer. We all know about this. So this is another trick. Another thing is that in stop and go traffic, in bumper to bumper traffic, very often I have seen my friends just pull the clutch lever back and hold on to the motorcycle. Don't do that. If you're doing that, there is a level of clutch friction that is happening and you're loading the engine. So this is where we are burning fuel again. So try and engage neutral as much as possible in bumper to bumper traffic. Now let us focus on fuel filter. Most of the motorcycles have fuel filters, cars have it, of course. So if your fuel filter is clogged, if fuel filter with time gets dust into it and fuel filters get clogged. If it is clogged, then it will not be sending enough fuel to the engine. And if that is happening, again, you are running the risk of running your engine lean. Lean is lesser fuel for the same amount of air. So if that happens, then again, you will not be getting good fuel efficiency. So clean your fuel filters or replace them on time. We have to check the fuel injectors. Now, very often this part is completely ignored. The fuel injectors. Now, what is a fuel injector? Fuel injector sends a spray of fuel into the engine. that is not checked for sometimes even 50,000 kilometers on motorcycles and cars. But a fuel injector will have to be cleaned every 10,000 or maximum 15,000 kilometers, because if it is not cleaned, remember, our quality of fuel is very bad and the fuel injectors can get clogged up. If that happens, then you are again running the risk of running your engine lean. And the same is applicable to carbureted engines. Clean your jets, clean your carburetor jets. Carburetors have two jets, the main jets and the pilot jets. Keep them absolutely clean. Another thing, friends, that is, check your spark plugs every 5,000 kilometers or so. Take up the spark plug, take it out and check the head of the spark plug. If it is kind of black in color, then it means that your engine is running rich. That is when the carbon deposits would be there on the spark plug. If that is happening, your engine is running rich, and that means the fuel efficiency is not optimum. So do it. Check your spark plug. Your spark plug should not be black in color. There is another trick to check if your motorcycle engine is running rich. That is very simple. Stand behind the motorcycle when the engine is running and check the smell of the exhaust. Yes, I'm serious. I sound funny, but if the exhaust fumes, exhaust smoke that is coming out, if you smell too much petrol there, that means your engine is running rich. If that is happening, your engine is just throwing away petrol. So make sure your engine is, the air fuel mixture is optimum. It should not be running lean, it should not be running rich. As I mentioned before, running rich means too much of fuel for the same amount of air, and running lean means lesser amount of fuel for the same amount of air, or more amount of air for the same amount of fuel. Also, a good practice is to fill fuel regularly at the same fuel station, because at least that way you know that you are not being cheated by the fuel station people. Select one fuel station which is a reputed one and fill fuel there regularly, unless you have to fill fuel somewhere else, which is absolutely all right. And next point is the idle RPM. Every engine has an optimum idle RPM. Most of the motorcycles idle at about 1000 or 1200 RPM. And cars idle at about 900 RPM, petrol cars, and diesel cars idle at much lesser RPM. So it can happen because of various reasons that the idle RPM could go higher. And if the idle RPM is anything higher than what it should be, then you're unnecessarily burning fuel at bumper to bumper traffic and at traffic lights. So make sure your idle RPM is set. If you're running, if you have a carbureted motorcycle or a carbureted car, it is very easy to set the idle RPM. You just have to play around with the idle screw, which would be there near the carburetor. And if you have a fuel injected motorcycle or a fuel injected car, then you would have to take it to the service center and they would connect it to the computers and they would set the idle RPM. Now, about aerodynamics. Yes, this is something which would affect your fuel efficiency very badly. That is, if you are talking about a motorcycle, then installing huge crash guards onto your motorcycle and installing a huge windscreen, thinking that you'll get protection from wind. Yes, you'll get protection from wind, but your pocket would get lighter because huge windscreens produce huge amount of drag, and that means your motorcycle has to work harder to move ahead and it will end up burning too much fuel. Even huge crash guards produce a lot of drag and that will burn a lot of fuel. And sometimes we install flags, huge flags, multiple flags onto our motorcycles. Even by doing that, you would be burning too much of fuel. And if you're talking about a car, then if you have installed an unnecessary rear spoiler, then if it is not designed for your car, then if it would be spoiling the aerodynamics of your car, and that aftermarket rear spoiler would do bad for your car, apart from the fact that it would make it look cooler, but it would be bad for the fuel efficiency. And also, putting a luggage carrier on the top of the car's roof will also play bad when it comes to aerodynamics, and your car would give less fuel efficiency. And also remember, friends, there's a huge myth that is, in a car, people sometimes turn off the air conditioner and roll down the windows and drive, thinking that they'll get better fuel efficiency. But no, if you roll down your windows and drive at anything more than 60 kilometers per hour, the air that is getting inside the car would act like a parachute and slow your car down, and that would increase the drag, and your car will burn more fuel. It is better to run the air conditioner and keep the windows up. You will actually get better fuel efficiency that way, because the car is more streamlined that way. And also in cars which don't have automatic climate control. Automatic climate control is basically when you set the temperature at about, say, if you're in a car and if you set your temperature at about 22 degrees Celsius, the moment the cabin temperature reaches 22 degrees Celsius, the thermostat is what checks the temperature, senses the temperature. That would cut off the compressor from the engine, and your car would get lesser, I mean, the car's engine would get lesser load from the AC. But if you don't have automatic climate control, then the best way to do it is run your car's AC for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then keep the blower running. When the fan runs, the fuel efficiency doesn't get affected at all. But put off the AC button. I mean, when you do that, the compressor, see, remember, car's AC is driven by a mechanical compressor, by the V belt. And if you cut off the AC, then the compressor gets unloaded and your car will get better fuel efficiency. So do this every 15 minutes. Cut off your AC for about 5 minutes and then put it on. That way it will work as manual climate control. And the last point for today is oversized tires. I've seen many cars and motorcycles, especially cars, having balloon radials, huge tires. Well, by doing that, by installing huge tires, you are only increasing the rolling friction and your fuel efficiency, and also you're increasing the weight of the car. So your fuel efficiency would drastically go down. I mean, if you want it, that I know the fuel efficiency will go down, but I want style, then go ahead and do it. But if you do not know about this fact, then remember, the rolling friction will increase and the load on the engine will increase. So don't put oversized tires on your motorcycle or your car. My throat is dry. Thank you, friends, for watching, and do add your thoughts and your points in the comment section. Let us together make motorcycling and driving a car a very pleasant and economical experience. So that is it from my side. If you're not subscribed to this channel yet, you're missing out on closer to 630 or 40 videos. And if you like this video, do give it a thumbs up. Thank you.